In the bustling city of São Paulo, where the skyline pierced the heavens and wealth and poverty clashed at every corner, lived a man named Victor Almeida. Victor was a millionaire who had built his fortune in the tech industry. Despite his wealth, he was known not for his luxurious lifestyle but for his quiet, unassuming demeanor and his dedication to helping others. His philanthropic endeavors were many, and among them was a particular project close to his heart: aiding the homeless population of the city. Hello, welcome, enjoy, subscribe, and activate notifications. Victor's charitable work was not a public relations stunt. It was a genuine calling. Every weekend, he would personally visit different shelters and soup kitchens, not just donating money but also spending time with those in need. He believed in the power of human connection, in the idea that a simple conversation or a warm meal could restore a person's dignity. One chilly Saturday evening, as the wind swept through the narrow streets of an old neighborhood, Victor arrived at a small makeshift shelter he had helped fund. The shelter was modest, run by a few dedicated volunteers who provided food and temporary housing to those in desperate need. The shelter was bustling with activity. Volunteers were serving hot meals, and the chatter of those grateful for a warm place to stay filled the air. Victor stood back, observing with a gentle smile as people lined up for their meals. His gaze was drawn to a young boy, perhaps 8 or 9 years old, who was darting around, helping distribute bread rolls. The boy's eyes sparkled with intelligence and energy, his small hands quick as he moved through the crowd with a natural ease. There was something captivating about him, a sharpness, a brightness that shone through the grim reality of his surroundings. Curious, Victor approached one of the volunteers. "Who is that boy?" he asked, nodding towards the child. "Oh, that's Lucas," the volunteer replied with a fond smile. "He's quite the character. His mother and he have been coming here for a few weeks now. He's a smart kid, always eager to help." As Victor watched Lucas, his attention was suddenly diverted to a woman standing near the back of the shelter. She was strikingly beautiful, her face marked by both grace and hardship. Her long, dark hair fell in loose waves, and her clothes, though worn, were clean and carefully mended. She had an air of quiet dignity, despite the evident strain of her circumstances. Victor felt an inexplicable pull towards her. He wasn't sure if it was her beauty, the way she carried herself, or something deeper that drew him in. He decided to approach her. "Hello," he greeted her gently. "My name is Victor. Couldn't help but notice your son. He's quite a remarkable boy." The woman looked up, her eyes meeting his with a mix of surprise and caution. "Thank you," she replied softly, her voice tinged with exhaustion. "I'm Sophia. Lucas is all I have in this world." Victor could hear the weight of her words, the underlying story of struggle and survival. "It's clear that you've done a wonderful job raising him," he said, offering a kind smile. "If you don't mind me asking, how did you come to be here?" Sophia hesitated, the pain of her past flickering in her eyes. "It's a long story," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "We lost our home after my husband passed away. Since then, it's just been Lucas and me, trying to make it through each day." Victor nodded, sensing that there was much more to her story than she was willing to share. "If there's anything I can do to help, please don't hesitate to ask. I know it's not easy to trust strangers, but I want to help in any way I can." Sophia looked at him, searching his eyes for sincerity. There was something in Victor's demeanor, an aura of genuine kindness, that made her want to believe him. "Thank you, Mr. Almeida," she said, managing a small smile. "You've already done so much just by supporting this place." They continued to talk for a few more minutes, the conversation light and polite, but Victor left that evening with a heavy heart. He couldn't shake the image of Sophia and Lucas from his mind. As he drove back to his luxurious apartment, the contrast between his life and theirs weighed on him more than ever before. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would change all their lives forever. The following weekend, Victor returned to the shelter, his thoughts still lingering on Sophia and Lucas. As he walked through the crowded streets towards the shelter, he wondered what it was about them that had captivated him so deeply. He had encountered many people through his charitable work, each with their own struggles and stories, but something about Sophia and her son felt different, almost like a story that was waiting to be told, a connection that was waiting to be made. When he arrived at the shelter, he saw Sophia and Lucas almost immediately. Lucas was once again helping out, his energy boundless, while Sophia sat quietly in a corner, lost in her thoughts. She looked up as Victor approached, offering a tentative smile as he greeted her. "Good to see you again, Sophia," Victor said warmly, taking a seat beside her. "How have you been?" Sophia nodded, her smile faint but genuine. "We're managing, thank you," she replied. "Lucas has been talking about you all week. He was hoping you'd come back." Victor glanced over at Lucas, who was now playfully engaging with a group of younger children. "He's an incredible boy," Victor remarked. "You must be very proud of him." Sophia's eyes softened as she looked at her son. "I am," she said, her voice full of emotion. "He's the reason I keep going, no matter how hard things get." There was a pause, a quiet moment where the noise of the shelter faded into the background, leaving only the shared silence between them. Victor sensed that Sophia had more to say, something that she was holding back. He decided to gently nudge the conversation forward. "Sophia," he began carefully, "I know we don't know each other very well, but if you ever feel like talking, I'm here to listen. I can see that you've been through a lot, and I want to help if I can." Sophia looked down at her hands, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her worn sweater. There was a long silence before she finally spoke, her voice barely audible. "I was married," she began, her tone heavy with memories, "to a man I loved deeply. But life, it has a way of changing things, of taking things away when you least expect it." Victor listened intently, his heart aching as Sophia began to share her story. "His name was Daniel," she continued. "He was a kind man, a hard worker. We didn't have much, but we were happy. When Lucas was born, it was like everything we had ever dreamed of was finally coming true. But then Daniel got sick. Started with just a cough, something we thought would pass. But it didn't. It got worse, and by the time we realized how serious it was too late. He had lung cancer." Sophia paused, swallowing hard as the memories overwhelmed her. Victor could see the pain etched into her face, the grief that still lingered despite the passage of time. "We couldn't afford the treatments," she continued, her voice trembling. "We sold everything we had, but it wasn't enough. He passed away within a year, and Lucas and I were left with nothing. No home, no money, nothing. I tried to find work, but with a young child and no one to help, it was impossible. We ended up on the streets, moving from one shelter to another." Victor felt a lump form in his throat as he listened. The struggles Sophia had faced were unimaginable, and yet, here she was, still standing, still fighting for her son. "I'm so sorry, Sophia," Victor said softly, his voice filled with compassion. "No one should have to go through what you've been through." Sophia nodded, wiping away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. "I don't tell this story often," she admitted. "It's hard to relive it, to remember all the things we lost. But I think I've been carrying this burden alone for too long." Victor reached out and gently placed his hand on hers, offering silent support. "You don't have to carry it alone anymore," he said. "I want to help you, Sophia. You and Lucas deserve a chance to rebuild your lives." Sophia looked at him, her eyes filled with both hope and fear. "But how?" she asked, her voice small and uncertain. "We've been struggling for so long. I don't even know where to start." Victor squeezed her hand reassuringly. "We'll figure it out together," he promised. "You're not alone anymore." For the first time in a long while, Sophia allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, things could get better. There was something in Victor's eyes, in the warmth of his voice, that made her want to trust him. And so, she nodded, accepting his offer of help. As they sat together in that crowded shelter, surrounded by the noise and chaos of the world, a quiet bond began to form between them, a bond that would soon change the course of their lives forever. Over the next few weeks, Victor became a regular presence at the shelter. Each time he visited, He spent more and more time with Sophia and Lucas, learning about their day-to-day struggles, their hopes, and their fears. He found himself growing increasingly attached to them, especially to Lucas, whose sharp wit and boundless curiosity never ceased to amaze him. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low over the São Paulo skyline, Victor arrived at the shelter to find Lucas sitting alone on the steps outside. The boy's usual energy seemed dimmed, and his face was clouded with worry. "Hey, Lucas," Victor greeted him, crouching down to meet him at eye level. "What's going on, buddy? You seem a little down today." Lucas looked up, his big brown eyes reflecting a seriousness beyond his years. "Mom's been really sad lately," he admitted. "I try to make her laugh, but it's like something's wrong, and she won't tell me what it is." Victor's heart tightened at the boy's concern. He had seen the weariness in Sophia's eyes, the way her shoulders sagged under the weight of her burdens. He knew she was trying to stay strong for Lucas, but the strain of their situation was beginning to take its toll. "Your mom is a strong woman, Lucas," Victor said gently, "but sometimes even strong people need a little help. That's why I'm here, to see if there's anything I can do to help both of you." Lucas nodded slowly, his gaze dropping to the ground. "I just want her to be happy again," he whispered. "I miss when we used to laugh a lot before everything happened." Victor felt a surge of determination. He couldn't change the past, but he could do something about the future. And he knew that helping Sophia and Lucas get back on their feet would be the first step towards giving them the happiness they deserved. "Tell you what, Lucas," Victor said, offering a reassuring smile. "How about you and I work together to make your mom smile again? I've got a few ideas, but I'm going to need your help." Lucas's eyes lit up with a spark of hope. "Really? What can we do?" Victor leaned in, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "Well, first, we need to find a better place for you and your mom to live. Somewhere safe and warm, where you can both relax and start fresh. What do you think?" Lucas's face brightened, his excitement palpable. "That would be awesome, but can we really do that?" Victor nodded confidently. "We can and we will. But remember, this is our secret mission. We're going to surprise your mom with something special, so you have to keep it between us for now. Deal?" Lucas grinned, the first genuine smile Victor had seen on him that day. "Deal." The next few days were a whirlwind of activity for Victor. He called in favors from friends and colleagues, used his connections, and pulled every string he could to make his plan a reality. His first priority was finding a safe, comfortable home for Sophia and Lucas. He knew that no matter what else he did, providing them with a stable environment was the foundation they needed to rebuild their lives. After several days of searching, Victor found the perfect place. A small, cozy apartment in a quiet neighborhood not far from the shelter. The building was clean, secure, and well-maintained, with a park nearby where Lucas could play. It was a far cry from the lavish mansions Victor was used to, but it was perfect for Sophia and Lucas. Modest, warm, and a place they could finally call home. With the apartment secured, Victor arranged to furnish it with everything they might need. A comfortable bed for Sophia, a bunk bed for Lucas, a small dining table, and even some toys and books to make Lucas feel at home. He also stocked the kitchen with groceries, ensuring they wouldn't have to worry about food for a while. As he oversaw the final preparations, Victor couldn't help but feel a deep sense of satisfaction. He knew this was just the beginning. There were still many challenges ahead, but he was determined to see it through. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he was truly making a difference, not just with his money, but with his heart. On the day of the big reveal, Victor returned to the shelter with a sense of anticipation. He found Sophia and Lucas in their usual spot, and his heart swelled with affection as he watched them. Sophia looked a bit more rested, perhaps due to the time Victor had spent with them, easing some of her burdens. Lucas, on the other hand, was practically bouncing with excitement, barely able to contain the secret he was keeping. "Sophia, Lucas," Victor called out, catching their attention. "I was wondering if you both could come with me for a little while. I have something I want to show you." Sophia looked at him curiously, while Lucas flashed a knowing smile, trying to play it cool. What is it? Sophia asked, her tone cautious but intrigued. Victor smiled mysteriously. It's a surprise. You'll see soon enough. They followed him to the car, Sophia's curiosity growing with each passing minute. The drive to the new apartment was filled with quiet anticipation, Lucas occasionally sneaking glances at Victor, his excitement barely contained. When they finally arrived, Sophia's eyes widened in confusion as she took in the unfamiliar surroundings. "Victor, what is this place?" she asked, a mix of surprise and uncertainty in her voice. Victor parked the car and turned to them with a smile. "This, Sophia, is your new home." For a moment, Sophia just stared at him, uncomprehending. "What do you mean, our new home?" Victor stepped out of the car, motioning for them to follow. "Come on, let me show you." He led them up the stairs to the apartment, his heart pounding with anticipation. As they stepped inside, Sophia's eyes filled with tears. The cozy living room, the small but welcoming kitchen, the neatly made beds. It was all so overwhelming. For the first time in what felt like forever, she felt safe. She felt hope. "Victor, I don't know what to say," Sophia stammered. It's too much." Victor shook his head, smiling gently. "It's not too much, Sophia. It's exactly what you and Lucas deserve. A place to call home. A fresh start." Lucas was already exploring the apartment, his laughter echoing through the rooms as he discovered the bunk bed in his new bedroom. "Mom, look, I have my own bed. And there's even a desk where I can do my homework." Sophia watched him, her heart swelling with a mixture of joy and disbelief. She turned back to Victor, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know how to thank you, Victor. This is more than I ever could have imagined." Victor stepped closer, his voice soft and reassuring. "You don't need to thank me, Sophia. Seeing you and Lucas happy is all the thanks I need. This is just the beginning. We're going to get through this together." Sophia nodded, still overwhelmed but deeply grateful. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that things could get better, that there was a future for her and her son, one filled with hope and possibilities. And as they stood there, in the warmth of their new home, the first fragile threads of a new life began to weave themselves into something beautiful and strong. A tapestry of hope, love, and the promise of better days to come. In the weeks that followed, Sophia and Lucas began to settle into their new life. The transformation was almost immediate. Sophia's once weary expression began to soften, her eyes brightened, and she even started to smile more often. The change in Lucas was equally profound. He no longer carried the weight of uncertainty and fear that had haunted him for so long. The stability of having a home made all the difference. Victor visited them regularly, checking in to ensure they had everything they needed. Each visit strengthened the bond between him and the little family. Lucas had taken a particular liking to Victor, seeing him as more than just a benefactor. Victor became a mentor and friend, someone Lucas could look up to, confide in, and share his dreams with. One Saturday morning, Victor decided to take Lucas out for the day. Sophia hesitated at first, but Victor assured her that it would be a good opportunity for Lucas to have some fun and explore the city. Reluctantly, she agreed, watching as Victor and Lucas left the apartment with a mixture of gratitude and apprehension. As they drove through the bustling streets of São Paulo, Lucas was full of questions. "Where are we going, Victor? Is it somewhere cool?" Victor smiled at the boy's enthusiasm. "It's a surprise, but I think you're going to love it." They arrived at the city's largest park, Ibirapuera Park, a sprawling green space that was a stark contrast to the concrete jungle that surrounded it. Lucas's eyes widened in awe as they walked through the park's entrance. The park was alive with activity. Families having picnics, joggers making their rounds, and children playing in every direction. "Wow, this place is huge," Lucas exclaimed, looking around in wonder. "It is," Victor agreed. "And today it's all yours to explore. We can go for a walk, play some soccer, or even rent a bike if you'd like." Lucas's face lit up at the mention of bikes. "Can we really? I've never ridden a bike before." Victor's heart ached slightly at the admission, realizing how much Lucas had missed out on. Of course we can. Let's go find the rental stand. They soon found a small kiosk where bikes were available for rent. Victor helped Lucas choose a bike and adjusted the seat to fit him perfectly. As Lucas climbed onto the bike, a mix of excitement and nervousness crossed his face. "Don't worry, I'll be right here," Victor said, steadying the bike as Lucas began to pedal. At first, Lucas wobbled uncertainly, his balance unsteady. But with Victor's patient guidance and a few encouraging words, he quickly got the hang of it. Soon, he was pedaling confidently down the park's paths, his laughter echoing through the trees. Victor watched with pride as Lucas rode ahead, his heart swelling with emotion. He had never imagined that helping this family would bring him such joy, but it did. Seeing Lucas so carefree and happy made every effort worthwhile. After an hour of cycling, they took a break near a small pond. Lucas was breathless but grinning from ear to ear. "This is the best day ever," he declared, plopping down on the grass beside Victor. "I'm glad you're having fun," Victor said, sitting down next to him. "You deserve it, Lucas. You've been through so much." Lucas looked up at him, his expression suddenly serious. "Victor, do you think we'll stay in our new home forever? Or is it just for a little while?" The question caught Victor off guard, and he could see the lingering fear in Lucas's eyes. Despite the happiness of the day, there was still a part of Lucas that feared losing it all, just as he had lost everything before. Victor placed a reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder. "I can't promise you forever, Lucas, but I can promise that I'll do everything I can to make sure you and your mom are safe and happy. Your home is your home, and no one can take that away from you." Lucas nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I believe you, Victor," he said quietly. "Thank you for everything." Victor felt a lump form in his throat. He had given Lucas a home, but in return, Lucas had given him something far more valuable: purpose, connection, and a sense of belonging he hadn't realized he was missing. They spent the rest of the afternoon exploring the park, with Victor showing Lucas the various attractions: the Japanese garden, the museum, and the planetarium. By the time they returned to the apartment, Lucas was exhausted but exhilarated, bursting through the door to tell Sophia all about his day. Sophia listened with a smile, her eyes softening as she watched Lucas's animated recounting of the day's adventures. When he finally ran off to his room, she turned to Victor, her expression one of deep gratitude. "Thank you, Victor," she said softly. "You've done so much for us. I don't even know how to begin to repay you." Victor shook his head, dismissing the notion. "You don't have to repay me, Sophia. I'm doing this because I care about you and Lucas. You've both been through so much, and it's the least I can do." Sophia looked down, her emotions threatening to overwhelm her. "I don't think I've ever met anyone like you, Victor. You're different. Most people wouldn't have even noticed us, let alone gone out of their way to help." Victor's heart skipped a beat at her words, and he found himself drawn to her in a way he hadn't expected. "Maybe it's because I needed something too," he admitted quietly. "Helping you and Lucas. It's given me a sense of purpose I didn't know I was missing." Sophia looked up at him, her eyes searching his. There was a connection between them, something unspoken but deeply felt. She could sense that Victor wasn't just helping them out of charity, but because he genuinely cared. For a moment, they stood in silence, the air between them charged with unspoken emotions. Finally, Sophia broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. "Victor, I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that you've already changed our lives in ways I never thought possible. And for that, I'll always be grateful." Victor smiled, his heart full as he looked at her. "I'm grateful too, Sophia, more than you know." As he left the apartment that evening, Victor couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting, something deeper than just friendship or gratitude. It was as if the pieces of their lives were slowly falling into place, forming a new picture, one filled with hope, love, and the possibility of a future together. And while neither Victor nor Sophia could predict what the future held, they both knew that whatever it was, they would face it together. The days turned into weeks, and the bond between Victor, Sophia, and Lucas grew stronger with each passing moment. Victor found himself spending more and more time with them, not just out of a sense of responsibility but because he genuinely enjoyed their company. The once quiet and solitary life he had led now felt fuller, richer, and more meaningful. Sophia, too, was changing. The initial hesitation she had felt towards Victor was slowly being replaced by something warmer, something more profound. She no longer saw him as just a wealthy benefactor. He had become a friend, a confidant, and someone she could rely on. His presence brought her a sense of security that she had not felt in years. One Saturday evening, Victor invited Sophia and Lucas to dinner at a small, cozy restaurant he frequented. It was a place tucked away in a quiet neighborhood, known for its intimate atmosphere and delicious food. Sophia had been reluctant at first, feeling out of place in such a setting, but Victor's gentle encouragement had persuaded her to accept. As they walked into the restaurant, Sophia couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. The warm lighting, the soft music, and the elegant decor were worlds apart from the shelter and the hardships they had endured. But as she saw Lucas's face light up with excitement, she knew she had made the right decision. "This place is amazing," Lucas exclaimed, his eyes wide as he took in the surroundings. "I've never been anywhere like this before." Victor smiled, his heart warmed by the boy's enthusiasm. "I thought you both deserved a special night out," he said, guiding them to a table near the window. "It's a chance to relax and enjoy ourselves." Sophia sat down, trying to push aside her lingering discomfort. "Thank you, Victor," she said softly. "This is very kind of you." Victor waved away her gratitude. "It's my pleasure, Sophia. You and Lucas deserve this." As they perused the menu, the conversation flowed easily. They talked about everything from Lucas's schoolwork to Sophia's plans for the future. Victor had helped Sophia enroll Lucas in a local school, and he had quickly become one of the brightest students in his class. Sophia had also started looking for work, hoping to regain some independence and stability. But as the evening progressed, the conversation took on a more personal tone. After Lucas had finished his meal and wandered off to explore a nearby bookshelf filled with old books, Victor turned to Sophia, his expression serious. "Sophia, I've been thinking a lot lately," he began, his voice measured, "about you, about Lucas, about everything we've been through together. And I've realized something important." Sophia looked at him, her heart beginning to race as she sensed the gravity of his words. "What is it, Victor?" Victor hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "When I first met you, I was just trying to do something good, to help someone in need. But over time, it's become so much more than that. You and Lucas, you've become a part of my life in a way I never expected. I find myself caring about you both more deeply than I thought possible." Sophia's breath caught in her throat as she listened, her emotions swirling inside her. "Victor, I don't know what to say." Victor reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I'm not saying this to make things complicated or to pressure you. I just wanted you to know how I feel. I care about you, Sophia, more than I ever thought I could care about anyone." For a long moment, Sophia was silent, her mind racing. She had been so focused on surviving, on taking care of Lucas, that she hadn't allowed herself to consider the possibility of love, of opening her heart to someone new. But now, as she looked into Victor's eyes, she realized that she had been falling for him, slowly and quietly, without even knowing it. "Victor," she began, her voice trembling, "I never expected this, any of this. You've been so kind, so generous, and I can't begin to express how much that means to me. But more than that, you've given Lucas and me something we never thought we'd have again. Hope, a future." She paused, gathering her courage. "I care about you too, Victor, more than I've allowed myself to admit. But I'm scared. Scared of what might happen if things don't work out. Scared of putting Lucas through more pain." Victor squeezed her hand gently. "I understand, Sophia, and I don't want to rush you into anything. We can take things slow, one step at a time. All I know is that I don't want to lose what we have. I want to be there for you and Lucas, no matter what." Sophia felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but they were tears of relief, of hope. "I don't want to lose you either, Victor," she whispered. You've become so important to us. Victor smiled, his heart light with the knowledge that Sophia felt the same way. Then let's see where this takes us. No pressure, no expectations. Just us, figuring it out together. Sophia nodded, a small smile breaking through her tears. I'd like that. Their conversation was interrupted by the return of Lucas, who came back to the table with a book in hand and a big smile on his face. Look what I found. It's a book about the stars. Can we read it together tonight? Victor and Sophia exchanged a glance, their unspoken feelings hanging in the air between them. Of course we can, Victor said, ruffling Lucas's hair affectionately. I'd love to. As they left the restaurant that night, the three of them walked side by side, a quiet understanding settling over them. Sophia's hand brushed against Victor's, and for the first time, she didn't pull away. Instead, she let herself lean into the warmth of his presence, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. They returned to the apartment, and as they sat on the couch reading Lucas's new book about the stars, Sophia realized that, for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The future was still uncertain, and there were still challenges ahead, but with Victor by her side, she felt ready to face whatever came next. And as the night wore on, with Lucas nestled between them, drifting off to sleep, Sophia and Victor exchanged a look that spoke volumes. It was a look of shared hope, of new beginnings, and of the promise of a love that was just beginning to blossom. The following weeks were a period of quiet happiness for Victor, Sophia, and Lucas. Their relationship, which had blossomed so unexpectedly, continued to grow in warmth and depth. The three of them formed a close-knit bond, finding comfort in each other's company and slowly building a new life together. Sophia had started working part-time at a nearby cafe, a job that allowed her to contribute to their household while still being there for Lucas after school. It wasn't glamorous work, but Sophia was grateful for the sense of independence it gave her. Meanwhile, Lucas thrived in his new school, making friends and excelling in his studies. He was happier than Sophia had ever seen him, and it filled her with pride and relief. Victor, for his part, continued to be a steadfast presence in their lives. He visited often, taking Lucas on weekend outings, helping him with his school projects, and spending quiet evenings with Sophia. Their relationship was evolving, deepening into something that felt real and lasting. But despite the happiness they were building, there were shadows lurking in the background. Shadows that neither Sophia nor Victor could ignore. One evening, as they sat together in the cozy living room of the apartment, Sophia sensed a tension in Victor that she hadn't noticed before. He seemed preoccupied, his usual easy smile replaced by a slight frown as he stared off into space. Victor, is everything okay? Sophia asked gently, her concern evident. Victor looked at her, as if snapping out of his thoughts. He hesitated for a moment before answering. There's something I need to talk to you about, Sophia. Something I've been trying to figure out how to say. Sophia's heart skipped a beat, a flicker of anxiety passing through her. What is it? She asked, her voice steady but laced with worry. Victor sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's about us, about what we've built here, and the life we're trying to create. I've been thinking a lot about the future, about what it means for all of us, and there's something I need to be honest about. Sophia's stomach tightened as she listened, fear creeping into her heart. Victor, whatever it is, we can handle it. Just tell me. Victor nodded, taking a deep breath. Sophia, I love you. I've never been more certain of anything in my life. But my world, the world I come from, it's complicated. My family, the business, the obligations, they're not things I can easily walk away from. And I'm worried about what that might mean for us. Sophia looked at him, her heart pounding. What do you mean? Are you saying you don't want to be with us? Victor quickly shook his head. No, it's not that at all. I want to be with you and Lucas more than anything. But there are people in my life, people who might not understand, who might not approve. My family, especially. They have certain expectations of me, and I'm afraid that being with you, with everything you've been through, might cause problems. Sophia felt a cold dread settle over her. Victor, I don't care about your family's approval. We've built something real here, something that matters. I know our pasts are different, but that doesn't mean we can't have a future together. Victor looked at her, his expression pained. I know, Sophia, and I agree. But my family, they're powerful, influential. They have connections that could make things difficult for us, especially if they don't approve. I don't want to see you or Lucas hurt because of me. Sophia's mind raced as she tried to process what Victor was saying. She had known that Victor came from a different world, a world of wealth and privilege that she could barely comprehend. But she hadn't realized just how deep those ties ran, or how they might threaten the fragile happiness they had found together. What are you saying, Victor? Sophia asked, her voice trembling. Are you saying we should end this before it even begins? Victor's eyes widened in alarm. No, Sophia, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just trying to prepare you for the challenges we might face. I'm willing to fight for us, but I need you to understand that it won't be easy. Sophia looked down, her hands trembling in her lap. The idea of losing what they had built was unbearable, but the thought of being the cause of Victor's troubles weighed heavily on her. She had fought so hard to protect Lucas, to keep him safe, and the last thing she wanted was to bring more turmoil into his life. Victor, I don't know what to do, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I want to be with you, but I can't let Lucas get hurt again. He's been through so much already. Victor reached out, taking her hands in his. I know, Sophia, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about this now, before things get more complicated. But I need you to know that I'm not giving up on us. I want to find a way to make this work, no matter what. Sophia looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity and determination there. But she also saw the conflict, the fear of what might come if they pursued this path. She felt torn, caught between the love she had found and the fear of the unknown. Victor, I need time to think, she said softly. I need to figure out what's best for Lucas, for all of us. This isn't just about you and me. It's about him too. Victor nodded, his heart heavy. Take all the time you need, Sophia. I'll be here, whatever you decide. The conversation hung between them, heavy with the weight of unspoken fears and unanswered questions. As Victor left the apartment that night, Sophia felt a sense of unease settle over her. The happiness they had found seemed fragile now, like something that could be easily shattered by forces beyond their control. The following days were marked by a tense silence between them. Victor continued to visit, but there was a distance in his demeanor, a wariness that hadn't been there before. Sophia, too, was more reserved, her mind occupied with the decision she knew she had to make. Meanwhile, Lucas sensed the change in the air, though he didn't fully understand it. He grew quieter, more subdued, as if he could feel the tension but didn't know how to address it. Sophia's heart broke at the sight of her son's confusion, and she knew she couldn't let this uncertainty linger. One evening, after putting Lucas to bed, Sophia sat alone in the living room, her thoughts racing. She knew she had to make a decision, one that would affect not just her, but Lucas and Victor as well. The fear of losing the stability they had found weighed heavily on her, but so did the thought of losing Victor, the man who had brought light and love back into their lives. As she sat there, the sound of her phone ringing broke the silence. It was Victor. She hesitated for a moment before answering, her heart pounding in her chest. Sophia. Victor's voice came through the line, warm and steady. I know you need time, but I just wanted to hear your voice. I miss you. Sophia felt tears well up in her eyes, her resolve wavering. I miss you too, Victor, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I've been thinking, Victor continued, and I want you to know that I'm ready to face whatever challenges come our way. I don't care what my family thinks or what anyone else says. I want to be with you, Sophia. I want to be with you and Lucas, no matter what. Sophia closed her eyes, letting his words wash over her. In that moment, she realized that she couldn't walk away from what they had built. She couldn't let fear dictate their future. Victor, she said, her voice firm, I want to be with you too. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I can't lose you. We'll face whatever comes our way, together. Victor's sigh of relief was palpable through the phone. Thank you, Sophia. We'll make this work, I promise. I love you. I love you too, Victor, Sophia replied, the weight on her heart lifting slightly. Let's take it one day at a time, and whatever happens, we'll face it together. As she hung up the phone, Sophia felt a renewed sense of hope. The challenges ahead were still daunting, but with Victor by her side, she felt ready to face them. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, she believed that they could find a way to make their love work, no matter what obstacles stood in their path. The decision to stay together brought a sense of relief to both Sophia and Victor. They knew the road ahead would be difficult, but their commitment to each other gave them strength. However, as they began to plan their future, they couldn't have anticipated just how quickly those challenges would manifest. It started with a seemingly innocuous event, a family gathering that Victor's parents were hosting. The Almeida family was well known in São Paulo's elite circles, and their gatherings were always grand affairs, filled with influential people from business, politics, and society. Victor had always kept his private life separate from these events, but as his relationship with Sophia grew more serious, he knew it was only a matter of time before he had to introduce her to his family. Victor decided to take the first step by speaking with his parents privately. He wanted to tell them about Sophia and Lucas in his own way, hoping to make them understand how important they had become to him. However, the conversation did not go as he had hoped. One afternoon, Victor met his parents at their sprawling estate in the hills overlooking the city. The house was a testament to the Almeida family's wealth and status, elegant, imposing, and meticulously maintained. As Victor walked through the grand entrance, he felt a familiar sense of unease. Despite his success, he had always felt the weight of his family's expectations pressing down on him. His parents, Eduardo and Beatriz Almeida, were seated in the sunroom, enjoying afternoon tea. They were the picture of sophistication, their lives steeped in the traditions and values of São Paulo's upper class. As Victor approached, they greeted him warmly, but he could sense their underlying curiosity. It wasn't often that Victor requested a private meeting, and they were eager to know what was on his mind. "Victor, darling, it's been too long," Beatrice said, her voice smooth and polished. "You've been so busy lately. We've hardly seen you." Victor smiled politely, taking a seat across from them. "Yes, I've had a lot on my plate, but I wanted to talk to you both about something important." Eduardo, always the pragmatic one, leaned forward slightly. "What is it, son? You seem serious." Victor took a deep breath, steadying himself. "It's about my personal life, about someone I've met. Her name is Sophia, and she has a young son named Lucas. They've become very important to me." Beatrice's eyes widened slightly in surprise, while Eduardo's expression remained unreadable. "Sophia," Beatrice repeated, her tone curious. "We haven't heard you mention her before. Tell us more about her." Victor hesitated for a moment, knowing that what he was about to say would likely trigger a reaction. "Sophia isn't from our world. She's been through a lot. She lost her husband, and she and Lucas were homeless for a time before I met them. I've been helping them get back on their feet, and in the process we've grown close. Very close." There was a moment of silence as his words hung in the air. Beatriz and Eduardo exchanged a glance, their expressions a mixture of concern and disbelief. "Victor," Eduardo began, his voice measured, "I understand that you want to help people in need. It's something we've always admired about you. But this is different. You're talking about a relationship with someone from a completely different background. Someone who, from what you've told us, has a lot of baggage." Victor bristled at the word baggage, but he forced himself to stay calm. "Sophia isn't just someone I'm helping. She's someone I care about deeply. She and Lucas have become a part of my life, and I want them to be a part of my future." Beatrice frowned, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Victor, darling, we know you have a kind heart, but you need to think about the implications of this. Our family is well known, and who you're associated with matters. Bringing someone like Sophia into our lives, it could raise questions, create complications." Victor felt a surge of frustration. This isn't about public perception. This is about love, about building a life with someone who makes me happy. Isn't that more important than what society thinks? Eduardo sighed, leaning back in his chair. Victor, we're not trying to control your life, but you have to understand that these things aren't as simple as you might think. Our world, it's unforgiving. People will talk, and it could affect not just you but Sophia and Lucas as well. Have you considered how they might be treated by others, how they might be judged? Victor's frustration grew as he realized his parents weren't going to see things from his perspective. I'm not ashamed of Sophia or Lucas, and I won't let anyone make them feel like they don't belong. If being with them means dealing with gossip or judgment, then so be it. Beatrice's expression softened slightly, but her concern remained. Victor, we just want you to be careful. We want you to be happy, but we also want you to think about the consequences of your choices. Victor stood up, unable to contain his emotions any longer. I've already made my choice, and I'm not going to change it. I'm with Sophia, and I'm going to stand by her, no matter what anyone says. Eduardo sighed, sensing that the conversation had reached an impasse. We understand your feelings, Victor, but please think carefully about what you're doing. We don't want to see you get hurt or hurt those you care about. Victor nodded, though his heart was heavy with the knowledge that his parents didn't approve. I appreciate your concern, but this is my life, and I'm going to live it the way I choose. As he left the estate, Victor's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. He knew that his parents' disapproval was only the beginning of the challenges they would face. The world he came from was one of privilege and power, but it was also a world filled with expectations, judgments, and prejudices that could easily tear apart what he and Sophia had built. That evening, Victor met Sophia at the apartment, the weight of the day's events pressing down on him. He didn't want to burden her with his worries, but he knew he couldn't keep it from her. Sophia, we need to talk, he said gently as they sat down on the couch. Sophia looked at him, sensing the seriousness in his tone. What is it, Victor? Did something happen? Victor took her hand, his heart aching as he prepared to tell her. I spoke to my parents today. I told them about you and Lucas, about our relationship. Sophia's eyes widened slightly, and she immediately sensed where this was going. And what did they say? Victor sighed, squeezing her hand gently. They're concerned. They don't approve, not because of who you are, but because of where you come from. They're worried about how our relationship will be perceived, about the challenges we'll face because of it. Sophia's heart sank, her worst fears coming to the surface. So they don't want us to be together? They didn't say that, Victor quickly reassured her. But they don't understand. They see our relationship as something that could create problems, that could bring judgment from others. But Sophia, none of that matters to me. I don't care what they think. I'm committed to you and Lucas, and I'll do whatever it takes to protect what we have. Sophia looked down, her mind racing. She had known that Victor's world was different from hers, but hearing about his parents' disapproval made the reality of their situation hit home. She had never wanted to be a source of conflict or pain for Victor, and now it seemed that their love was already causing rifts. Victor, I don't want to come between you and your family, Sophia said quietly, her voice trembling. You've done so much for us, and I can't bear the thought of you losing them because of me. Victor lifted her chin gently, forcing her to meet his gaze. You're not coming between us, Sophia. This is my choice, and I'm choosing you. My parents will have to come to terms with that, but even if they don't, it won't change how I feel about you. Sophia's eyes filled with tears as she listened to his words, her heart torn between love and fear. But what if they never accept us? What if this creates a divide that can't be mended? Victor's expression softened, and he pulled her into his arms, holding her close. Then we'll face that together. I won't let anything come between us, Sophia. I love you, and I'm not going to let anyone or anything take that away. Sophia clung to him, her tears flowing freely now. I love you too, Victor. I'm just so scared. Scared of losing everything we've built. Victor stroked her hair, his voice soothing. We won't lose it, Sophia. We're stronger than that. We'll get through this, I promise. As they held each other in the quiet of the apartment, Sophia realized that despite her fears, She couldn't walk away from Victor. He had become her rock, her safe haven, and the thought of losing him was more painful than any challenge they might face. But even as they found comfort in each other's arms, the storm was already gathering on the horizon. A storm that would soon test their love and commitment in ways they could never have imagined. The days following Victor's conversation with his parents were filled with a tense, uneasy calm. Victor continued to visit Sophia and Lucas, determined to keep their relationship strong. But the shadow of his family's disapproval loomed over them. Sophia did her best to stay positive, but the fear of what might come next gnawed at her, especially when she saw the worry in Victor's eyes that he tried so hard to hide. Despite the growing tension, they made the most of their time together. They continued their weekend outings, took quiet walks in the park, and spent evenings together in the cozy apartment that had become their sanctuary. But even in those moments of happiness, there was an unspoken understanding between them that the peace they had found could be shattered at any moment. The breaking point came on a Sunday afternoon when Sophia, Victor, and Lucas were at a local festival. The streets were alive with music, laughter, and the vibrant colors of stalls selling everything from handmade crafts to delicious street food. For a while, they managed to lose themselves in the festive atmosphere, enjoying the simple pleasures of being together. But as they wandered through the crowd, Sophia suddenly noticed a woman staring at them from across the street. The woman was elegantly dressed, her demeanor cool and calculating. Sophia recognized her from the few photos Victor had shown her. It was Beatriz Almeida, Victor's mother. Sophia's heart sank as Beatriz's eyes locked onto hers, a mixture of surprise and something far colder flashing across her face. She watched in horror as Beatriz made her way through the crowd toward them, her every step radiating disapproval. "Victor," Sophia whispered, her voice trembling. "Your mother. She's here." Victor turned, his eyes widening in shock as he saw Beatriz approaching. He quickly stepped in front of Sophia and Lucas, his protective instinct kicking in. "Mother," Victor greeted her, his voice strained. "What are you doing here?" Beatriz's expression was as icy as her tone. "I was at a nearby gallery and decided to take a walk. Imagine my surprise when I saw you here with them." Sophia felt a chill run down her spine as Beatriz's gaze shifted to her and Lucas, her eyes narrowing in disapproval. Lucas, sensing the tension, instinctively moved closer to Sophia, his small hand gripping hers tightly. Victor stood firm, his voice steady despite the tension. "Mother, this isn't the time or place for this conversation. Let's discuss this later in private." Beatriz ignored his words, her focus remaining on Sophia. "So, you're Sophia," she said, her tone laced with thinly veiled disdain. "The woman who has captivated my son." Sophia swallowed hard, her heart pounding in her chest. She had expected resistance from Victor's family, but not like this, not so publicly, not so coldly. "Yes, I'm Sophia," she managed to say, her voice trembling despite her best efforts to remain calm. "And this is Lucas." Beatriz's eyes flickered to Lucas, who was watching the exchange with wide, fearful eyes. "This is the child?" she said, her tone dripping with judgment. "Victor, do you honestly think this is the life you want? To be entangled with a woman who has nothing, and a child who is not even yours?" Victor's patience snapped. "That's enough, Mother," he said sharply, his voice filled with anger. "You have no right to speak to them that way." Beatriz raised an eyebrow, clearly unaccustomed to being challenged. "I'm only saying what needs to be said, Victor. You're throwing away everything for them, your reputation, your future. Have you really thought this through?" Sophia felt her heart shatter as Beatriz's words cut through her like a knife. She had feared this moment, but hearing it out loud, in front of Lucas, was more painful than she could have imagined. Victor took a step closer to his mother, his expression hardening. "I've thought this through more than you realize. Sophia and Lucas are my future, and I won't let anyone, not even you, come between us." Beatriz's lips tightened into a thin line. "You're making a mistake, Victor. One that you'll regret for the rest of your life." Victor shook his head, his voice resolute. "No, Mother. The only mistake I would regret is letting your prejudice and fear dictate my life. Sophia, unable to bear the tension any longer, spoke up, her voice shaking. Victor, maybe your mother is right. Maybe we're just causing you more trouble than we're worth. Victor turned to her, his eyes filled with anguish. Sophia, don't say that. You're not causing me trouble. I love you, and I love Lucas. Nothing else matters. But Sophia could see the pain in his eyes, the turmoil that this confrontation had caused. She knew that no matter how much Victor loved her, being with her would always mean facing battles like this one. Battles that could tear his life apart. Victor, Sophia whispered, her voice breaking. Maybe we should take a step back. Give you time to think, to really decide what you want. Victor's eyes widened in shock, and he reached out to her, his voice pleading. Sophia, please don't do this. Don't let her push us apart. But Sophia couldn't ignore the reality of the situation. As much as she loved Victor, she couldn't stand to see him caught in the crossfire between her and his family. I just need time, Victor, she said softly, tears streaming down her face. Time to think, to figure out what's best for Lucas. Victor's shoulders slumped in defeat, his heart breaking as he saw the pain in her eyes. I understand, Sophia, he said quietly, but please don't walk away. We can figure this out together. Sophia nodded, though her heart felt like it was shattering into 1,000 pieces. I'm not walking away, Victor. Beatrice watched the exchange with a cold detachment, her expression unreadable. It seems your friend is more sensible than you, Victor, she said quietly. Victor turned to her, his voice filled with cold anger. This isn't over, Mother. I'm going to fight for Sophia and Lucas, no matter what you or anyone else thinks. Without another word, Victor took Sophia and Lucas by the hand and led them away from the festival. The joyous sounds of music and laughter faded into the background as they walked in silence, the weight of the confrontation hanging heavily over them. When they reached Sophia's apartment, Victor stopped and turned to her, his eyes filled with desperation. Please, Sophia, don't let this be the end. I can't lose you. Sophia looked up at him, her heart breaking all over again. It's not the end, Victor, but we need time. Time to think, to figure out how to make this work without tearing your life apart. Victor nodded, though every fiber of his being wanted to fight against the distance she was putting between them. Take the time you need, Sophia. But remember, I love you, and I'm not giving up on us. Sophia nodded, her voice choked with emotion. I love you too, Victor, but right now I need to focus on Lucas. I need to make sure he's okay. Victor understood, even if it tore him apart inside. He leaned down and kissed her gently, a kiss filled with all the love and regret that words couldn't express. Then he knelt down and hugged Lucas tightly, his voice thick with emotion. I'll see you soon, buddy. Take care of your mom for me. Okay? Lucas nodded, his eyes brimming with tears. I will, Victor. I promise. With one last look at Sophia, Victor turned and walked away, the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. Sophia watched him go, her heart shattering with every step he took. As she closed the door behind her, Sophia collapsed onto the couch, sobbing uncontrollably. Lucas climbed onto her lap, wrapping his small arms around her as they cried together, both of them feeling the deep, wrenching pain of what had just happened. The storm that had been building for so long had finally broken, leaving them both adrift in a sea of uncertainty and heartache. And as Sophia held her son close, she couldn't help but wonder if their love would survive the wreckage. Days turned into weeks, and the void left by Victor's absence weighed heavily on Sophia and Lucas. The vibrant energy that had once filled their small apartment was replaced by a haunting silence. Sophia threw herself into her work at the cafe, trying to keep her mind occupied. But no matter how busy she kept herself, thoughts of Victor lingered in every quiet moment. Lucas, too, was subdued, the light in his eyes dimmed by the sadness of losing the man who had become like a father to him. Victor, on the other hand, was struggling just as much. He buried himself in his work, trying to push away the pain of separation. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw Sophia's tearful face and Lucas's trembling voice. His parents tried to console him, offering reassurance that he had done the right thing by stepping back. But their words only deepened the void in his heart. One evening, as Victor sat alone in his office, staring blankly at the documents in front of him, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Sophia. His heart raced as he opened it, and he read the words that filled him with both hope and fear. Victor, I've been thinking a lot about everything, about us, about Lucas, about the future. We need to talk. Can we meet tomorrow? Victor didn't hesitate for a moment. He quickly replied, agreeing to meet her the next day. He couldn't sleep that night, his mind racing with possibilities, both good and bad. He didn't know what Sophia would say, but he knew that whatever happened, he was ready to fight for their love. The next day, they met at a quiet cafe on the outskirts of the city, away from prying eyes and the noise of the city. Sophia was already there when Victor arrived, sitting at a corner table with a cup of coffee in front of her. She looked up as he approached, her expression unreadable. Sophia. Victor greeted her softly, his heart pounding in his chest. Victor, she replied, her voice equally soft. They sat down across from each other, an uncomfortable silence stretching between them. For a moment, neither knew how to start, each afraid of what the other might say. Finally, Sophia broke the silence. Victor, I've had a lot of time to think, she began, her eyes fixed on the coffee cup in her hands. About everything that's happened. About us and about Lucas. Victor leaned forward, his voice filled with urgency. Sophia, whatever it is, just say it. I need to know where we stand. Sophia looked up at him, her eyes filled with both love and sadness. Victor, I've realized that no matter how much I want to protect Lucas, I can't do it by shutting people out. I can't keep him safe by pushing away the people who care about him, who care about us. Victor's heart skipped a beat. Does that mean? Sophia nodded slowly. It means that I love you, Victor, and I don't want to lose you. But it also means that we need to find a way to make this work. A way that doesn't tear your life apart or bring more pain to Lucas. Victor reached across the table, taking her hand in his. Sophia, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this work. I don't care about what my family thinks or what society thinks. All I care about is you and Lucas. Sophia's eyes filled with tears as she listened to his words. I know you mean that, Victor, but the reality is that we're going to face challenges. Challenges that we can't just ignore. Your family, the world you come from, they're not going to accept us easily. Victor squeezed her hand, his voice steady. Then we'll face those challenges together. We'll take it one step at a time, but I promise you, Sophia, I'm not going to let anyone or anything come between us again. Sophia took a deep breath, her heart aching with both love and fear. Victor, I don't want you to lose your family because of me, but I also don't want to live without you. So, if you're really sure, then I'm willing to fight for us. Victor's eyes shone with determination. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Sophia, I love you, and I'm not going to lose you again. Sophia smiled through her tears, a sense of peace finally settling over her. I love you too, Victor, and I'm ready to face whatever comes our way, as long as we're together. For a moment, they simply sat there, holding each other's hands, letting the weight of their decision settle over them. It wasn't going to be easy, they both knew that, but they also knew that their love was worth fighting for, no matter the obstacles. As they left the cafe, walking hand in hand, Victor felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that his parents would be difficult to win over, but he was determined to show them that his love for Sophia and Lucas was real, and that it was worth any sacrifice. When they reached Sophia's apartment, Lucas ran to the door to greet them, his face lighting up with joy as he saw them together. Victor knelt down and hugged him tightly, his heart swelling with love. Lucas, we're going to be a family, Victor said, his voice filled with emotion. A real family together. Lucas's eyes widened in surprise and happiness. Really, Victor? You mean it? Victor nodded, tears brimming in his eyes. I mean it, buddy. I love you and your mom, and I'm not going anywhere. Lucas hugged him even tighter, his small arms wrapping around Victor's neck. I love you too, Victor. Sophia watched them, her heart full as she realized that they had made the right decision. It wasn't going to be easy, but they were going to face it together, as a family. And so, with the storm behind them, they began to rebuild their lives, stronger and more united than ever before. There were still challenges to face, still battles to fight, but they faced them with the knowledge that their love was worth every struggle, every tear, every sacrifice. In the end, it wasn't about where they came from or what others thought. It was about the love they had found in each other, a love that had redeemed them, lifted them from the shadows, and brought them into the light. And as they stood together, hand in hand, they knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together, their love stronger than any storm that might come their way.